Hi, friends. I'm so glad you're back. I'm Bible Class Betty, and we're going to be talking about the book of Joshua. Now, today we're going to be in chapters 5 and 6, and we're going to be talking about the people of Israel marching around the walls of Jericho. You remember that story, and the walls came tumbling down. Oh, let's find out what exactly happened. Before we get started, it's always a good idea to make sure we know the words that are used in this story, because sometimes the Bible uses some big words that we don't know, or maybe words that meant something different in those times than they mean now. Our first word is the word adversary. Hmm. Oh, that's someone who struggles or opposes or resists you. Why, that might be an enemy or an opponent. Adversary. Oh, we've seen this one before in chapter 1. The Ark of the Covenant, the Ark of the Testimony, or the Ark of the Lord. These are all the same thing. They refer to the most sacred object of Israel's worship. Why, it was a box or a chest made of acacia wood. It was overlaid with gold. The top of it was called the mercy seat, and it had two cherubim or angels on either side of that lid. And it could only be carried by sliding two poles through the rings on the four corners of the box. God was very, very specific. The next word is cease. Oh, that's easy. Ceases. Stop. To come to an end. Stop. Got that? Our next word is circumcise. Why, that's a lot of times in the Old Testament we read that word. It was something that God required of every male in Israel to be circumcised on the 8th day after their birth. It was part of his covenant or his promise with Israel. It was a physical sign that they belonged to him. Our next word is the word devote. Now, devote means set apart for a special purpose or dedicated. Look at this lovely picture of this couple that are devoted to each other. Oh, looks a lot like me and Bible class Billy to me. Devoted things. Devoted things. Oh, well, that's items that are dedicated for a special purpose. Flint. A flint would be a hard, dark quartz that might produce a spark when it's hit by steel. It's very sharp, it's very strong and durable. And we're going to hear that they made knives out of this flint rock material. Manna. That was God's special treat. It was one of the foods that God provided for the Israelites during the Exodus. Why, manna appeared with the dew every morning, 6 days of the week, for 40 years. Can you imagine? God loved them so much, he made sure they didn't run out of food. Our next word is the word oath. Now, oath we talked about last time was a special promise. It's a promise that's made in God's name. Why, an oath invites God's punishment if the oath or the promise is broken. Parched. Parched. Hold on. Oh, I'm a little thirsty. Mmm, Parched is very dry, usually because of a lack of moisture. Why, look at that ground. It looks like it was thirsty too. It could use a drink. Perished. Perished. Let's see. Oh, that would be to cease to exist or to become, well, destroyed or ruined, perished. It no longer exists. Our next word is the word possess. Possess would be, well, to have or to hold as property of your own. Why, sometimes you could possess something by taking it from someone else. But sometimes it's that you possess it because, well, it was yours to begin with. Our next word is produce. Produce? Why, that's easy. That's those yummy fruits and vegetables Mom serves you. Oh, it could be anything from carrots and cabbage to, oh, maybe some yummy plums or bananas. Produce. Prostitute. Oh, we talked about this in our lesson with Rahab. Remember? Prostitute is to devote yourself to a corrupt purpose. It's putting your talents to an unworthy use. Why, this man is prostituted himself to stealing money to take care of himself. Oh, we read in the Bible that Rahab was referred to as a prostitute. Well, I like to think of her more of, well, a problem solver. She wasn't an Israelite. She wasn't under God's law, but she had devoted herself to providing for herself in an unworthy manner. But remember, oh, I don't want it to spoil. Oh, we'll just do the next one. Reproach. To express or rebuke disapproval, something that deserves blame or disgrace. Reproach. It looks like she's reproaching him for doing something she didn't like. Treasury. A treasury is the place where you collect funds or money or treasures. That'll be easy to remember. Uncircumcised. Well, if to be circumcised was required by God's people, uncircumcised is not being circumcised. And that would be the pagan or wicked or unbelieving people. It's not God's people, it's the others who were uncircumcised. Valor. Oh, that's a term that refers to someone's bravery or strength. Why, their strength of mind or spirit that lets them face danger. Think of, a celebrated warrior. Valor. Vessel. Oh, well, that's just a hollow utensil, like a cup or a bowl. It's used to hold something. That's easy. A vessel. Now, we're going to get started with Joshua chapters 5 and 6. Remember, in our last lesson, we finished up chapters 3 and 4? Why, we saw mixed emotions crossing that Jordan River. Why, the Israelite people were headed into the land of Canaan. The Israelites rejoiced at the fulfillment of God's promise as he parted the Jordan River, and they crossed on dry land at the same time. Well, but the people of Canaan, how were they feeling? Ooh, show me grumpy face. They were grumpy and filled with panic because this nation approaching them, had the God of Israel on their side, and he could control forces of nature. Let's review the chapters we've done so far. Chapter 1, be strong and courageous. Your wandering is done. Israel prepares their provisions in Joshua 1. Spies are sent out in Joshua 2, and a promise for Rahab for her rescue. The Jordan dried up, just like the Red Sea, and the priests carry the ark in Joshua 3. 12 stones collected from the Jordan's floor, a memorial erected in Joshua 4. Well, now in Joshua 5, these events are recorded approximately 1450 BC. That's about 1,450 years before Christ. The Israelites crossed the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and they observed Passover feast on the 14th day of the first month. They've arrived in the promised land in time for Passover. Oh, can you imagine how exciting to not be celebrating Passover in the desert, but oh, their feet are on the promised land. Well, where are they? Do you see? I've got the big picture that kind of shows a zoomed in version. They're just at the top of the Dead Sea, and there you can see Gilgal, where Israel camped. And look how close they are to Jericho. Oh, it looks like we're getting ready for about, I bet with that many people crossing that Jordan River, the people of Jericho saw them coming. Who will we meet in Joshua chapters 5 and 6? Well, we'll start with 5. Of course, we're going to meet Joshua. Why, he was Moses' assistant when Moses led, and he was now the new leader that God had selected to lead Israel after Moses died. We're also going to meet the commander of the Lord's army. Oh, I love that song. I may never march in the infant. Oh, I shouldn't sing right now. The commander of the Lord's army. He's a spiritual being who appears to Joshua in the form of a man or a soldier. So open your Bibles now to chapter 5. Let's read together. Now, if you remember, if the word is in blue, that means it's a person. But if the word is in green, that's a place or a city. Now, if we see something highlighted in yellow, that's going to mean it's a quote. Somebody's talking to us. But if the letters are in red, that's God Himself talking. Are you ready? Let's begin. A new generation circumcised. As soon as all the kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan to the west, and all the kings of the Canaanites who were by the sea, heard that the Lord had dried up the waters of the Jordan for the people of Israel until they had crossed over, their hearts melted. There was no longer any spirit left in them because of Israel. Well, don't you think that the people in the west side of the Jordan were pleased when they learned that the Israelites had stopped on the other side of the Jordan? Maybe even a little happy that they had the Jordan River between them and these people. Oh, a little barrier maybe. And now comes the news that the Israelites have crossed the river and are headed into their town. A massive group of people whose God let them across the river when it was at its highest point. And now they're within walking distance of Jericho. Well, verse 2. At that time, the Lord said to Joshua, make flint knives, remember that was that hard quartz, and circumcise the sons of Israel a second time. So these were the people that had been born while they were in the desert and hadn't been circumcised. So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised all the sons of Israel in Gilead. Oh dear, I don't think I said that right. Haraloth. And this is the reason why Joshua circumcised them. All the males of the people who had come out of Egypt, the men of war, who had died in the wilderness on the way after they had come out of Egypt. Though all the people who came out had been circumcised, yet all the people who were born on the way in the wilderness after they came out of Egypt had not been circumcised. For the people of Israel walked 40 years in the wilderness until all the nation, the men of war who came out of Egypt, perished, died, because they did not obey the voice of the Lord. The Lord swore to them that he would not let them see the land that the Lord had sworn to their fathers to give them, a land flowing with milk and honey. So they were uncircumcised because they had not been circumcised on the way. Now, when the circumcising of the whole nation was finished, they remained in their place in the camp while they healed. And the Lord said to Joshua, "Today, I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you." So, the bad decisions their parents had made after leaving Israel, that shame, has now been rolled away, because now he's starting forward with a new group. And so the name of that place is called Gilgal to this day. Now, the act of the males being circumcised on the 8th day became as a part of a special covenant God made with Abraham. And it was to continue through future generations. The first generation of Israel to leave Egypt had been circumcised. It was just a physical act. It was an act of obedience of the heart. We don't know why this next generation had not been circumcised. They should have been. But we can understand that part of this covenant was that there would be no blessing without a physical act of obedience. This time is now out. The time is now, after all, when the people of Canaan are paralyzed with shock and fear and so afraid of an attack. Joshua has the advantage. He can afford to let his soldiers rest for just a few days. Verse 10, the first Passover in Canaan. Remember, Passover is when they celebrated the death angel who came through Egypt and passed over the Israelites' houses because they had put the lamb's blood on the top of their doorpost. And they celebrate this each year because God delivered them. Now, we are celebrating the first Passover in the land of Canaan. While the people of Israel were camped in Gilgal, they kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month, in the evening in the plains of Jericho. And the day after Passover, on that very day, they ate the produce of the land, the fruits and vegetables that were grown in Canaan. No manna, unleavened cakes and parched grain. The manna ceased. It stopped that day, the day after they ate of the produce of the land. And there was no longer manna for the people of Israel, but they ate the fruit of the land of Canaan that year. Now that the men had been circumcised, they now follow the instructions for celebrating Passover. Because the Israelites had finally relied on God, they would no longer need manna. From this point forward, they would eat the fruit of the land. And can you imagine, after eating the same thing for 40 days, how good those fruits and vegetables must have tasted? God's like that. The commander of the Lord's army. When Joshua was by Jericho, he lifted up his eyes, and he looked, and behold, a man was standing before him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went to him and said, "Are you for us or for our adversaries?" Remember, our enemies. And he said, the soldier, "No, I am the commander of the army of the Lord. Now I have come." And Joshua fell on his face on the earth. He fell down and he bowed and worshiped him, saying, "What does my Lord say to his servant?" And the commander of the Lord's army said to Joshua, remember, he's speaking for God, so it's like God speaking directly. So it's in red. "Take off your sandals, from your feet, for the place you are standing is holy." And Joshua did so. I picture this as Joshua near the wall of Jericho, wait, maybe under the cover of darkness, looking for the weaknesses of the city and making his plan of attack. Intent on his mission, I can see him shocked as he looked up and saw a man with a drawn sword. Joshua's first question is, "Are you for us or for our enemies?" And when the commander of the army of the Lord answered, Joshua worshiped him and asked what message was the Lord sending him. Joshua was told to take off his sandals because the land he was standing on was holy. Do you see any similarities between Joshua and Moses? I remember Moses having taken off his sandals when he saw that burning bush. By not answering Joshua's original question, God is saying, "I am far more than an enemy or an ally. I am the commander." That makes Joshua the general. He's the one who will carry out the commander's orders. And the commander is God. So that brings us to our first poem this time. Chapter 5. At Gilgal, the men were circumcised with flint knives, the commander of the Lord's army, in Joshua 5. Now let's look at Joshua 6. In Joshua 5, Israel observed the feast of the Passover on the plains of Jericho. And in chapter 6, Israel camped close to Jericho, getting ready to prepare to make war with the city. Who are we going to meet in chapter 6? Well, of course, Joshua, Moses' assistant, who's now the leader of Israel, will be in chapter 6. Remember, it was God himself who selected Joshua to lead Israel after Moses' death. And we're going to get to see Rahab again. Remember that prostitute who lived in the city walls of Jericho? In chapter 2, she helped the Israelite spies evade detection by telling them which way to go so the soldiers wouldn't find them. I remember there was some kind of a promise made to her, but there was a couple of things she was supposed to do too. Get her family, keep them in her house, tie that red cord, not tell anybody that the spies had been there. Oh, I hope she kept her promise and the spies will keep theirs to rescue her and her family when Israel takes over Jericho. Let's see. Okay, chapter 6, verse 1. The fall of Jericho. I like how that sounds because that sounds like Israel's going to take over Jericho. Ready? Now Jericho was shut up inside and outside because of the people of Israel. No one went out and no one came in. And the Lord said to Joshua, it's in red, so that means that it's God talking. See, I have given you Jericho into your hand, with its kings and its mighty men of valor. You shall march around the city, all the men of war going around the city once. Thus you shall do this for 6 days. 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. Oh, we got some new instructions though. On the 7th day, you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow their trumpets. And when they make a long blast sound with that ram's horn, when you hear the sound of the trumpet, then all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city will fall down flat. And the people shall go up, Israel, everyone straight before him. We're going to charge the city. So the people of Jericho were closed up in the city for fear of the Israelites And God continues the conversation with Joshua. The Lord encourages Joshua. Then he lays out a list of instructions that must be followed to ensure victory. The plan God reveals must have sounded a little silly. Walk around, all around the walls of the city, one time on that day. Now, do that 6 days. Do that for an entire week, and nothing will happen. In addition to that, the seventh day of marching, there will be 7 priests and 7 trumpets. No human military leader would have ever come up with this kind of plan. Oh, but God can do so much with so little. We just have to follow his directions. So Joshua, the son of Nun, called the priests and said to them, it's in yellow, so now he's telling them the instructions. Joshua says, take up the Ark of the Covenant and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the Ark of the Lord. And he said to the people, go forward, march around the city, and let the armed men pass before the Ark of the Lord. And just as Joshua had commanded people, the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the Lord went forward, blowing the trumpets with the Ark of the Covenant, and the Lord following them. The armed men were walking before the priests who were blowing their trumpets, and the rear guard was walking after the ark, while the trumpets blew continually. And then Joshua commanded the people, you shall not shout or make your voice heard, neither shall any word go out of your mouth until the day I tell you to shout. Then you shall shout. So he caused the ark of the Lord to circle the city, going about it once. And then they came into the camp and spent the night in the camp. So Joshua repeats the instructions just as the Lord had given him. He repeats it to the people. It emphasizes the importance of strictly obeying every detail. The ark is mentioned 5 times in this little short reading, a reminder that God's patience and leadership is with them in this endeavor. Then Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord, and the 7 priests, bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord, walked on. And they blew their trumpets continually, and the armed men who were walking before them, and the rear guard was walking after the ark of the Lord. And while the trumpets blew continually, the second day they marched around the city one time and returned to camp. They did this for 6 days. On the seventh day, they rose early at the dawn of the day, and they marched around the city in the same manner 7 times. It was only on that day that they marched around the city 7 times. And at the seventh time, when the priest had blown their trumpets, Joshua said to all the people, shout, for the Lord has given you the city. And the city and all that was within it shall be devoted to the Lord for destruction. Destruction. We're going to destroy everything. Okay? Only Rahab, the prostitute, and all who are with her in her house shall live, because she hid the messengers we sent. But you, keep yourself from the things that are devoted to destruction, lest when you have devoted them, you take any of the devoted things and make the camp of Israel a thing for destruction and bring trouble on it. But all the silver and gold and every vessel of bronze and iron are holy to the Lord. They shall go into the treasury of the Lord. So the people have risen early in the morning to follow God's instruction. Joshua makes it clear that the conquering of Jericho will be to the glory of God. It is not for plunder, not for personal profit. It is the principle, the first fruits, Jericho, the first lamb captured, belonged to God. But notice the things that are going into the Lord's treasury. Now they're going to have iron and gold and silver that's devoted to God, but they might be able to use that with God's instructions. Joshua chapter 6, verse 20. So the people shouted, and the trumpets were blown. And as soon as the people heard it, the sound of the trumpet, why, they shouted for a great shout. And the walls came tumbling down. So the people went up to the city, every man, woo, straight before him. And they captured the city. Then they devoted all the city to destruction, both men, women, young, old, oxen, sheep, donkeys, to the edge of the sword. For now, all of the is for the big climax. The people shouted, the trumpets were blown, the walls fell, the walls of Jericho tumbled down to themselves. The people obeyed God's instruction. This was all an act of God. They did exactly what God wanted. These people had done evil in God's eyes. They would have been a distraction to God's people if they'd let them live. And God loved Israel, the people who worshiped him, so much that he wanted them to have no distractions so they could serve him in the promised land. Verse 22. But to the two men, the spies, who had spied out the land, Joshua said, go into the prostitute's house and bring out from there the woman and all who belong to her, just like you swore or promised to her. So the young men who had been spies went in and brought out Rahab and her father and her mother and her brothers and all who belonged to her. And they brought all her relatives and put them right outside the camp of Israel. And they burned the city with fire and everything in it. Oh, only the silver and gold and the vessels of bronze and iron they put in the treasury of the house of the Lord. But Rahab, the prostitute, and her father's household, and all that belonged to her, Joshua saved alive. And she has lived in Israel to this day because she hid the messengers, or spies, whom Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. I love that Joshua sent the two spies to retrieve Rahab. Why, she would have known them and known she was safe. Rahab and her family were placed right outside Israel's camp, probably for 7 days until they were ceremonial clean and not from any defilement. This former prostitute became one of the people of God who lives among them. In fact, remember Rahab's name appearing in the New Testament? She's one of the descendants of Jesus in the book of Matthew. Can you imagine? What an awesome privilege. Now Joshua laid an oath, or a sincere promise, on them and said, cursed before the Lord, or by the Lord, be the man who rises up and rebuilds the city of Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn shall he lay its foundation, and at the cost of his youngest son shall he set up its gates. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame was in all the land. The city lived under a curse. The curse was to be upon anyone who tried to rebuild this city. Joshua's reputation, along with Israel and God's, is circulated all over the land. Now we've got a poem since we're at the end of chapter 6. At trumpet sound, Israel marched with high kicks around the city of Jericho in Joshua 6. Isn't that funny? Well, we finished chapter 6, but let's make sure we got all the big points from chapters 5 and 6. The nation of Israel stepped into the promised land. Their enemies are still there, so they have instructions for how to drive them out. They are going to take down Jericho first, but they must follow God's instructions. To prepare for battle, God instructions are not to run sprints or to practice using weapons. His instructions are to walk and blow trumpets. This is a terrible battle strategy by human standards. Joshua runs into the man with a sword who says that he's the commander of the Lord's army. Oh, Joshua believes he is in God's presence, so he bows down to worship. Joshua and his men followed the instructions God gave. They marched around the city with the ark once a day for 6 days, blowing trumpets. And then on the seventh day, oh, the people shout, the walls fall down, and the Israelites take the city. Everyone except Rahab and her family, who are protected by the spies, just as she protected them. The whole city of Jericho is defeated. Okay, now it's time for my cartoons. Remember, some very talented people draw these and they add a little humor to our story. I think they help us to remember some events in these chapters. Here's our first one. At first, the Israelites didn't understand why God wanted them to carry the ark through the wilderness. Does that look like the Ark of the Covenant, or does that look like they're trying to carry Noah's Ark? Oh, oh dear. You have to be careful and not trip in the land of milk and honey. He got stuck in the. Well, did it really have milk and honey? Well, it probably did, but not like that. It had lots of wonderful produce. Oh, look at the two men on top of the wall of Jericho talking to each other. Hey, looks like some sort of parade. Oh, he's going to be disappointed. Oh, here we go. We've got some men on top of the wall again. Oh, look, we're being attacked by a Jewish marching band. The mood in the guard tower was ironically light, just moments before the fall of Jericho. Now, does the Bible tell us that they were joking around? No, it says they were very afraid. But this is kind of funny too. It helps us remember they marched around the city. Oh, look, here's somebody, and he's plugged his computer. Did they have computers then? No, into it. Using Trumpetware 1.0, Joshua attempts to hack the firewall of Jericho. Oh, I don't think that's at all what happened. Okay, for those of you in my class, you've got your study guides, so you're going to want to do your homework for chapters 5 and 6 this week. Now, that'll be a lot easier if you read chapters 5 and 6 on your own sometime this week, now that you understand what's happening in the story. And for those chapter heading cards, be sure and look at chapters 1 through 6. They're a big help in getting through your homework. Well, I can't wait to see you next time. Bye-bye, guys.